Monday, August 21st, 1911. In Paris, another workday begins and a man walks with everybody else into one of the most important and famous museums in the world, the Louvre. He tries to act natural so that no one will notice he's actually quite tense. His name is Vincenzo Perruggia. He has a dark complexion and he comes from Italy. That could be the reason he speaks French with a slight accent, and perhaps because of his slightly strained personality, people there tend to keep their distance from him. He heads to his workstation. The man works as an artist and decorator. But now and then his eyes come to rest on a 16th century painting depicting the Florentine woman Mona Lisa. Beads of sweat appear on Vincenzo's forehead when he thinks about what he intends to do. At one point, the decorator clenches his fists and walks towards the painting. The man waits until the visitors leave, then he takes the canvas from the wall. His fear almost makes him faint. Adjusting the painting so he can hold it more comfortably, he carries it to the service stairs. There, Vincenzo removes its protective case, taking the canvas out of its frame and wrapping it in his overalls. Then, seeing the guard has been distracted, he carries it out of the museum building. It's only discovered that the painting has gone missing the following day. Chaos ensues. Vincenzo Perruggia arrives at the museum with the rest of its workers and sees the police rushing about the place. They're taking his colleagues' fingerprints. It's some sort of newfangled system which helps them identify a criminal. Perruggia feels weak at the knees, believing his own fingers might give him away. But in the end, the police only question him. Once he's home, Vincenzo starts monitoring the news. Papers across the world are printing the missing Mona Lisa's picture. No one knows that it's being kept at his house in a trunk and that it will remain there for another 2 years. Over this period, it also spends time in his cupboard and under his stove. Meanwhile, the papers accuse one person after another. Among those suspected are even the avant-garde poet Guillaume Apollinaire and also the famous artist Picasso, whose homes were discovered to contain statuettes belonging to the Louvre. But in the case of the Mona Lisa, both are freed for lack of proof, and their stealing of the statuettes is regarded as a protest by extraordinarily creative individuals. It's possible they were dissatisfied that a more meaningful role in culture was assigned to traditional art rather than modernist movements. Or they may simply have wanted to demonstrate just how secure the museum really was. First, police and journalists think that a ransom will be set for the Mona Lisa's return. One publication boisterously declares that it will pay anyone who can tell them anything about the missing masterpiece. But with each passing day, it becomes clearer that no one intends to say anything, and the criminals are in no rush to give themselves up. Vincenzo Perruggia can't believe his luck. He's not gone into hiding, and he's right under both the police's noses and those of his co-workers at the museum. But no one suspects a thing. Maybe his luck's about to run out. But, strange as it sounds, Perruggia never gets approached. It's hard to believe, but the theft, which took place in broad daylight, has gone unpunished. Vincenzo's only grief is that he's unable to sell such an expensive painting, since he'd be apprehended immediately. He writes a letter to his father promising that his parents will live a long life and reap the rewards that his son has sowed for him. As time passes since the day of the crime, many theories are put forward. Someone even suggests the criminal hid overnight in the broom cupboard. Supposedly, he waited there when everyone was leaving and then carried out his misdeed. Despite their active searches, the police just can't find a lead on the true criminal. 2 very long years pass by, but then comes the day when Vincenzo Perruggia resolves to get rid of the painting. He imagines he'll be as rich as Croesus. The thought makes him feel warm inside while he sets off to go fence the painting. Vincenzo has found a person who has ties to the director of the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, and the director has agreed to buy the painting. Perruggia tightens his grip around the handle of his suitcase. It has a false bottom where the painting is safely hidden. He tries to remain calm, but when customs officers stop him for inspection, his nerves almost get the better of him. At their request, Vincenzo opens up his suitcase, and the customs officers reel back. It's full of dirty socks, and they stink. Perruggia intentionally did this so that no one would take a fancy to rifling around in his dirty underwear. He's pleased that his plan has been a successful one, but his dreams of his entire family living a happy, satisfied life are not meant to be. The director of the Uffizi Gallery, who supposedly agreed to buy the painting, makes contact with the police, and Perruggia is arrested. The painting is to travel around Italy for a while, and is then to return to its rightful place in the Louvre. During his absence, people flocked to see its bare spot on the wall, and now they can again admire the Florentine beauty with the mysterious smile. Could it be that she's smiling because she truly does hold many secrets? Perruggia himself is sent to prison. In court, he highlights his patriotism, saying that he wanted to return the painting to its birthplace. Having worked in the Louvre, he learned that Napoleon Bonaparte had stolen many Italian works of art during his military campaigns, the Mona Lisa being one of them. But Perruggia was unaware that, after moving to France, it was Leonardo da Vinci who gifted the painting to the French king so that he could stay at court. This had happened more than 250 years before Napoleon was born. Experts expressed doubt concerning Perruggia's patriotic motive. If he'd actually wanted to return the painting to its birthplace, then he would have handled it to the Italian museum without any attempt to make a profit from it. They also say that he stole the painting first because he hated the French, then because the heroine reminded him of one of his relatives. Whatever the reason, the theft of the Italian masterpiece has become the most famous crime of the 20th century. Vincenzo Perruggia is questioned a second time. He claims that on August 21, 1911, at 7 o'clock in the morning, he entered the museum with the rest of his colleagues. He was wearing white overalls just like the rest of them. When the gallery had been vacated, he took the painting off the 4 iron pegs fastening it to the wall, carried it to the staircase, wrapped his overalls around it, tucked it under his armpit, and left the Louvre through the same door he'd come in by. Later, witnesses appeared who claimed that he'd carried the painting out right under his coat. Perruggia, however, was of notably small stature, and it was unlikely he'd have been able to carry the painting under his clothing. They also say that the director of the Uffizi Gallery only confirmed the authenticity of the painting. With the owner of another art gallery, he took it for safekeeping, and together they contacted police. Various rumors surrounding Vincenzo himself are also widespread. Some claim that he wasn't an artist and director, but a house painter, or just some sort of seasonal worker. Others say that he didn't act alone. He receives an unexpectedly light sentence for the theft in the end, just over a year in prison. What's more, in Italy, Perruggia is declared a great patriot, and he stays inside for less than his assigned sentence. He gets out after 7 months and goes off to serve in the army. Then the First World War happens. Vincenzo Perruggia is taken captive in the fight against Austria-Hungary, spending 2 years as a prisoner of war, just as much time as he had kept the world-famous painting locked up for. Several times it seemed to him that his life would end there and then, but life surprised him every time, as if there was a guardian angel digging him out of all of his holes. When the war ends, Vincenzo returns from captivity and finds a wife. He and his wife have a daughter called Celestina, and Perruggia's life finally returns to normal. He even finds a stable job as a decorator, using his real name, Pietro Perruggia. But what of the Mona Lisa? She's become a celebrity. 6,500 copies of her have been made. In 1911, when the crime was committed, the Mona Lisa, or Gioconda, wasn't quite so famous yet. It was the crime that drew the public's constant attention to her. For some time, this attention was drawn away only by the crash of the Titanic. Only the police and the Louvre's director lost out from the uproar surrounding the painting. The director was fired. A year earlier, he had said that stealing something from the Louvre would be just as simple as carrying the Notre Dame out the door. In the end, France retrieved the masterpiece, and the newspapers sold reams of copies. The Mona Lisa was then constantly printed on postcards and other souvenir products. At one point, there were so many images of the Gioconda around that connoisseurs of the arts even turned their backs on her. There are and have been many rumors about this creation of Da Vinci's. The painting is covered with a web of cracks, which have appeared on the canvas due to its aging and which are difficult to forge. Nevertheless, according to the testimony of its contemporaries, during Leonardo's time, the Gioconda had eyebrows, for example. Today's Mona Lisa, though, is without them. And even her eyes, as historians of Renaissance art have claimed, once glistened and were full of life. The Mona Lisa of today doesn't possess this quality. So can we really say that it's the original that's now housed in the Louvre? Officially, yes. It's considered that the painting returned there was the one painted at the start of the 16th century by Leonardo da Vinci. But the story of the canvas's theft poses constant questions. One version's emerged where the theft wasn't organized by Vincenzo Perruggia, but by Edoardo di Valferno, a con man. Not long before the incident, he supposedly tasked a French forger with making copies of the canvas to later sell. Because the painting was stolen, The worth of these copies ought to have grown quite substantially. The public found out about this thanks to a journalist who Valferno recounted his machination to in 1913. The journalist promised not to reveal his secret until Valferno had died, but there's no proof whatsoever to confirm this version of the story. Despite rumors of a possible forgery, the Gioconda, famous to the whole world, is still a topic of conversation. Its popularity has grown. In the 1930s, French politicians suggested opening a separate gallery for it. Due to this announcement, people came to look at the Mona Lisa not so much out of their love for the arts, but rather so they could later say that they'd seen it. Today, the picture is under much stricter protection than at the start of the 20th century. No one will be able to follow Perruggio's example any longer and take the canvas from the wall. Even just to look at it, you have to wait in line like at an airport, and there's no lingering in front of it. The next tourists in the queue are pressed close behind, so you can only admire the Florentine on the go. What do you think about the true motives behind stealing the Gioconda? Could the painting still have attained such popularity without this incident in the past? Share your opinions in the comments below. And if you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel.